Super Mario 64. What a fun, exciting, and adventurous game. Whether it's your first time playing or 100th time playing, you'll always find fun and new adventure awaits. So today, we're going to talk about all the Super Mario 64 courses and the stars and the experience this game brings. So sit back, relax, grab a snack, and let's get started. For those of you who've been following the analysis series, there will be a lot of the same stuff in this video, but if you're new here, welcome. I've got a good one for you. Don't forget to drop a like, and please consider subscribing. We're coming up on 500 subscribers and your support would mean a lot to me. Alright, let's get started. Bob-omb Battlefield might be the most important level in Super Mario 64. Think about the time this game was released. Sure, if you wanted to compare it to modern games, or even modern Mario games, there are all kinds of improvements that you could make. But I really want you to understand that back in its time, this was insane. First of all, it's beautiful, it's bright. As soon as you enter the course, you have a clear path, but at the same time, there are several things going on around you catching your attention. Though it wasn't the first 3D game, it might as well be, because Mario 64 really nailed it. So, Bob-omb Battlefield, it's not the hardest, even the biggest. It might not even be the best course in Mario 64. But this level does teach you what Mario 64 is. When you first jump into the painting, you see the world, and you have the opportunity to just go mess around. And that's what makes Bob-omb Battlefield so special. It starts simple. You got some grass, some Goombas, a chain chomp, cannons, rolling balls, giant mountain in the back. It's just full of adventure. You're not just running in a straight line to the end. You're looking around, and you're testing jumps and climbing. You're figuring out what you can touch and what hurts you. The first star, Big Bob-omb on the summit, is basically the perfect introduction. The game points you towards a mountain, and it's your job to just get there. It sounds easy, but along the way you learn almost everything. You learn how the slopes work, and how the enemies move, and how the camera is, well, doing its best. You learn that Mario can triple jump, and long jump, and climb. You can punch, and dive, and somehow survive being launched out of a cannon. But then you make it to the top and you fight King Bob-omb. It's not super hard, but it works, because it teaches you something important. Mario isn't just jumping around anymore. You're grabbing and throwing things. You're really using this 3D space. And that was huge at the time. Then more comes with the level. You can race Koopa the Quick, which is one of the most memorable stars in the game. It's simple, but it makes the whole mountain feel different because you're not just exploring slowly, you're just trying to find the fastest route. And honestly, this race is just kind of funny because Koopa acts like he's about to destroy you and then proceeds to lightly jog up the mountain. Hey, it's silly, but it works. And then the 8 red coin star, which encourages you to explore the whole map. And at some point you gotta find out how to get to this floating island in the sky. And when you get there, you're rewarded with a star as well as a red coin. So you gotta learn to interact with everything you see. And then the 100 coin star, which for the first 100 coin star I would say is actually pretty difficult. But what was genius is that you're not expected to 100% every level before you move on. And that's imminent with the fact that you have to go collect other stars to eventually unlock the wing cap, to then come back and get the 5 hidden coin star. It's not perfect though. Some parts feel a little empty compared to later levels. The mountain path is iconic, but after you've done it a bunch of times, climbing it over and over can get old, and kind of like I mentioned earlier, the camera is a bit goofy. But it is the first course, it's hard to complain too much. This level had a massive job. It had to introduce players to 3D Mario, teach the controls, and show off freedom, and yet still be fun enough to make people want to keep playing. And it absolutely does that. So Bob-omb Battlefield isn't just another beginner level, it's a level that tells you that this is the way Mario is going to be going forward. So even after all this time, running around here still feels good. There aren't many games that you can pick up and play 30 years later and still enjoy, but Bob-omb Battlefield played a role into why this game is. It's simple and memorable and iconic. Whomp's Fortress is where the game starts testing if you actually learned it. While gathering clips for the video, I had an absolute blast running around the course and collecting the stars again. Though it is simple, they really nailed this one. The entire level is basically one giant climb. You start at the bottom and can already see most of your destination above you. That sounds simple. A lot of Mario 64 levels are often more open. Whomp's Fortress is different. It feels focused, and unlike other levels in the game, it's not built with too much challenge. There are enemies all around you, but they are relatively easy to take care of. Yeah, you can fall. In fact, if you're new to the game, you'll probably fall a lot. But this course feels more fun while playing risky and utilizing Mario's speed. Speaking of the enemies, the Whomps themselves are such a cool concept. You've got giant living slabs of stone jumping on you face first, which has always been very funny to me. Nonetheless, this is their territory. The Whomp King isn't just some giant monster, he's basically just a bigger, angrier version of what you've already been dealing with. It's simple, but it works. Another thing that makes this level iconic are the stars that are packed into it. Shooting into the wild blue, the red coin star, blast away the wall, easy yet rewarding. However, fall onto the caged island really annoys me. I don't know if it's just me, but I always seem to miss the cage. And when you do, you gotta start back at the beginning, or jump back into the painting, and take the owl to the cage again, just to miss again, and again, and again. Don't get me wrong, I've been playing Mario for my entire life, so if this is where my skill caps out, that's sad. I hope it's not just me. Let me know in the comments. The owl is one of the most memorable parts of the entire level. I love the concept of riding the owl around the course. It's a bummer we don't see the owl in other courses as well. This level really never gets old. Some levels feel repetitive when you played Mario 64 as much as I have, but not this one. It's always fun to revisit. This level doesn't just do a great job of showing off how creative Mario's movements can be. You can play it normally or start finding shortcuts with wall kicks and long jumps, speedrunning routes, or crazy cannon shots. The better you get at Mario 64, the more fun Whomp's Fortress becomes. At the end of the day, Whomp's Fortress isn't the flashiest level in Mario 64. There's no lava or giant snow slides, it doesn't have haunted houses or underwater ships. It's just a giant fortress in the sky. But truly it feels like more than that. For a level that's only the second course in the game, it sure is pretty impressive. Some of my earliest childhood memories are playing Mario 64 with my brother and sister, and I always wanted to play this level in particular, so it holds a special place in my heart. Whomp's Fortress may just be another level for some, but for me it was my introduction into the world of video games. Let's be honest, this very well may be our intro into violence in gaming. There was no reason to, but we couldn't help ourselves from throwing the little baby penguin off of the map into the void right in front of its mother. The first thing I can say is this has got to be one of the most beautiful atmospheres in the entire game. Every component of this course is complemented by the next. This is an early course that tests your progress using Mario's mechanics after learning and refining them in Bob-omb Battlefield. The stars are creative and encourage exploration of a largely scaled map. The best component has easily got to be the slide. I personally really adore all the slides in Super Mario 64 because they all bring a unique element with them, and I appreciate the challenge this slide brings. I appreciate that you're given options to take the entire slide as intended, or simply jump off from corner to corner, or reach the end by taking the secret hole in the wall to complete the slide early. Peach's hidden slide introduces us to how slides can work in the game, and the developers did an excellent job taking the simplicity from Peach's slide and expanding on the idea and making it its own. Then of course you've got the penguin race. This star in particular is easily in my favorite top 10 stars in the entire game, because it's not too easy nor is it too hard. Moderate challenges are what you come to expect in a game like this. I really like the anti-cheating mechanic because otherwise the star would simply be too easy. So you're forced to actually race the penguin and avoid getting knocked off the edge for a victory. I honestly think Nintendo created one of the most memorable characters in the entire game with that giant penguin. It's a shame we have yet to see more of Miss Penguin because I for one would like to win a game of Mario Party or Mario Kart playing as the penguin. Another great star is Snowman's lost his head. This star seems pretty simple and straightforward now, but for some reason I really struggled with this one as a kid. I don't think I fully realized that you had to align Mario with the snowman. Nonetheless, I enjoy sliding down the mountain, and wall kicks will work as a creative star because it's hidden away in a part of the map that you don't easily see until you open the cannon and see a tree in the distance to aim at. This level comes with danger, but by no means is there any impending doom. You can slide too fast and fall off the map or overshoot your shot with a cannon, but like every Mario level you have to consider these sort of possibilities to keep you on your toes. The movement on the snow and ice is probably my only flaw about this course, and simple jumps feel riskier than normal. But then again, when you're running around the snow and ice, we shouldn't expect anything different. There aren't many obstacles or objects or even enemies in your way preventing you from getting to where you need to go. And the mountain provides a natural and seamless progression as it continuously pulls you downward. This map is no playground. Cool Mountain feels more like a location, which I feel differentiates this course from other courses in the game. Cool Mountain doesn't need to be an overly complicated level. It has a clear idea and it sticks to it. If I were ranking every level of Super Mario 64 from best to worst, this would have to fall somewhere in the top 3, because some levels feel a bit dreadful, as they usually come with 1 or 2 stars that are tedious or lack excitement to get. Not in Cool Mountain though. Every star is fun and I look forward to the experience every single playthrough. There's always been one thing I've never understood about the community. For a game this loved, people really hate water levels. And honestly, I think they're some of the best levels in the entire game. Now look, I get it. When most people think about Mario, they think speed. Running, jumping, but Jolly Roger Bay and Dire Docks do the opposite. They slow everything down, and somehow, that's exactly why I love them. Jolly Roger Bay, especially, has one of the coolest atmospheres in the entire game. You jump into the painting, and suddenly everything changes. The music gets quiet, the cave is dark, There's a giant sunken ship sitting underwater. As a kid, this level genuinely felt creepy. Not horror game creepy, just weirdly unsettling. And then there's the eel. Every kid playing this game had the exact same reaction. You swim near the ship, feeling confident, and suddenly you find this giant nightmare spaghetti creature that comes flying out at you. And your survival instincts initially activate. But that's what made the level memorable. It felt alive. The clams trying to bite you, and the fish swimming around, the hidden cave, the shipwreck. It felt like an actual underwater world instead of just water level number 4. And then there's Dire Dire Docks, the most overhated level in gaming history. People will call this level empty, but honestly, the emptiness is what makes it special. The music alone carries a level into legendary status. It's peaceful, dreamlike, almost emotional in a weird way. And honestly, I think people confuse slow with bad. Not every level needs explosions and chaos every 5 seconds. Sometimes a game needs breathing room, and these levels give SM64 that balance. If every level was non-stop platforming chaos, the game would honestly get exhausting. But the water levels force you to slow down, to explore, to exist in the environment for a minute. Now okay, I will admit, the swimming controls can be a little questionable. There are moments where you try turning around and Mario starts moving like he's never seen water before in his life. But honestly, once you get used to it, it's really not that bad. And most of the stars are actually fun. The eel star is classic. The sunken ship is awesome. The Bowser submarine in Dire Dire Docks is so cool. Now with all that being said, we do need to talk about the Manta Ray ring star. That star sucks. I'm sorry, I love these levels with my entire heart, but that mission feels like psychological warfare. You miss one ring and suddenly everything falls apart. The manta ray starts moving weird. That star is terrible. Absolutely awful. But other than that, peak. And honestly, these levels aged a lot better than the fan favorites, because atmosphere lasts forever. That's why people still listen to Dire Dire Docks music today. That's why these levels stick in your brain decades later. Some levels are fun in the moment, these levels feel memorable. And maybe nostalgia plays a part too, because I remember being a kid and just swimming around these levels for no reason. Not even trying to get stars, just exploring, looking around underwater and listening to music. And that feeling, the feeling is hard to recreate in modern games. Modern games are so obsessed with content stimulation, map markers, battle passes, objectives every 2 seconds, but these levels are willing to just let you exist inside of them. And honestly, that's part of what makes SM64 feel magical all these years later. So yeah, I'm defending Jolly Roger Bay and Dire Dire Docks. I know half of the internet disagrees with me, but I stand by it. These levels are peaceful, great atmosphere, they're memorable and beautiful. And they're part of what makes Super Mario 64 one of the greatest games ever made. Except the Manta Ray ring star. Have you ever gone back to a game from your childhood and realized one specific area felt way more disturbing than you remembered? Not because it had monsters, not because it was hard, just because everything about it felt wrong. For me, that level was Hazy Maze Cave. And the weird thing is, when you're just a kid, you don't really question it, you just accept it as another Mario level. But looking back now as an adult, Hazy Maze Cave feels less like a playground and more like an abandoned underground facility, and I genuinely think there's a reason this place sticks in people's heads. Because Hazy Maze Cave isn't scary in the normal way, it's psychologically uncomfortable. First thing that makes this level feel so unsettling is the transition into it. Super Mario 64 is usually bright, open skies with grass and sunlight and freedom. Even inside Peach's castle there's a warmth to it. Paintings, carpet, windows, music, it feels alive. Then suddenly, you jump into Hazy Maze Cave and it feels like the game buries you underground. There's no sky, no sunlight, no sense of where you are. Just metal, stone, dark water, industrial platforms, and this weird feeling that you're somewhere you're never supposed to find. That's what makes this level memorable. It feels isolated. And the layout makes the feeling even worse. Nothing in Hazy Maze Cave feels natural. The hallways twist in strange directions, elevators move with this cold, mechanical rhythm. Doors lead to giant empty spaces. Half of the level feels abandoned. The other half feels unfinished. Like the cave was designed by something trying to imitate architecture without fully understanding how humans actually move through spaces. And honestly, I think that's why this level sticks with people. Because it creates a weird architectural uncanny feeling. Everything looks familiar, but none of it feels safe. The cave also constantly crushes your sense of space. Super Mario 64 usually gives you room to move. big jumps and open environments and freedom. But Hazy Maze Cave keeps squeezing you into narrow tunnels, low ceilings, cramped corridors, and tiny ledges hanging over darkness. And when you combine that with the N64's foggy draw distance, it starts to feel claustrophobic, like the cave is closing in around you. Even the camera struggles in here. Then there's the toxic haze, which honestly might be the most important part of the whole level. The fog doesn't just damage you, it changes the psychology of the environment. You can't clearly judge depth. Your health is constantly ticking down while this cloudiness swallows everything around you. No giant horror music or monsters screaming at you, just this slow, suffocating pressure hanging over the entire area. Like the level itself is contaminated. And because N64 graphics are primitive, your imagination fills in the blanks. As kids, we weren't seeing polygons. We were seeing a real toxic underground cave. And then there was Lapras. And then there's Dory, which might secretly be one of the weirdest creatures Nintendo has ever made. Because Dory isn't hostile. She doesn't chase you, she barely even reacts to your existence. She just exists, silently, deep underground. And something about that makes her unsettling, especially since she feels so ancient. Like she's been trapped down there forever. As a kid, I remember seeing Dory and not really understanding what I was looking at. She wasn't cute enough to feel friendly, but she wasn't dangerous enough to feel like an enemy. She just felt unnatural, like part of the cave itself. Even the enemies in this level feel off. The scuttlebugs move in these stiff, unusual patterns. The giant pit areas feel endless. And because of the low poly graphics, everything has these sharp edges and strange empty spaces. Modern games try to make environments feel believable. Hazy Maze Cave feels indifferent to human life, and somehow that makes it more memorable. I also think this level taps into a really specific childhood fear, getting lost underground. Because Hazy Maze Cave loops in itself constantly, you go down elevators, around corners, and through tunnels into hidden rooms, and eventually you stop understanding where you even are anymore. You're just wandering deeper. That's why this level feels dreamlike. Not because it's magical, because it feels unstable. I think the real horror of Hazy Maze Cave isn't the monsters, it's the environment itself. Everything about this place feels hostile. The toxic air, the industrial noises, the buried architecture, which is probably why so many people remember it decades later, because Hazy Maze Cave doesn't scare you directly. It just quietly convinces your brain that you shouldn't be there. And maybe that's why old games still hit so differently. The hardware limitations, the weird geometry, the empty spaces, they force our imagination to finish the image. And sometimes our imagination makes those worlds way scarier than they're developed to be. Lethal Lava Land feels like the sort of level I should make a video on because it's so unsettling. And Lethal Lava Land looking like you've teleported into the Earth's core, nothing is actually unsettling about it. Instead, I would use the word frustrating. Danger is all around you, from the very beginning. Aside from the platforms, you're surrounded by a giant pit of lava just waiting for the opportunity to burn you and cost you a life. You really have to navigate carefully and utilize long jumps and precision to navigate the course. It's got its fair share of enemies, and the bullies can be annoying, so it's rewarding when you get to send them flying into the lava. You've got this frustrating log that you're in danger of falling off of with any daring move. Honestly, over the years I've chosen to bypass this log completely by long jumping and using the lava to grab the star instead. And let's talk about this volcano. It's really cool that the developers included what feels to be an additional level within a level that already feels complete. Though I'll admit the inside of the volcano can be frustrating. One of the stars are relatively simple, as you have to carefully scale your way up the volcano. But the other comes with great risk of falling, if you miss a pole jump or get burned by the fire that's blown at you, and if you're not patient and happen to miss multiple times, it becomes very aggravating. With that said, it's a challenge and we don't back down from a challenge around here. Though nothing about Lethal Lava Land feels particularly scary, it does let off a good amount of adrenaline. The 8 red coin star is probably the easiest 8 red coin star in the game, but it doesn't feel underwhelming, because the Bowser puzzle is fun and engaging. Battling the bullies for the stars are fun and a creative concept, and who doesn't like to teach a bully a lesson? However, I do think it's lazy to utilize 2 of the course's stars basically on the exact same thing. You fight one big bully and are rewarded with a star, to then fight 3 small bullies followed by another big bully for another star. I feel one of these could have been swapped out for something else, such as a 5 secret star or something like that. Lethal Lava Land stands out to me because it was one of my favorite courses as a kid. It's not too overwhelming, nor is it underwhelming. It's just Lethal Lava Land. The shell you can ride makes collecting the 100 coin star a fun and high speed experience, but it comes with the danger of bumping into a ledge or the wall. I'd like to also add it's one of the best 100 coin stars in the game. I wish Lethal Lava Land was bigger, and there was more to explore, because the course does feel relatively small in comparison to other courses. And with a concept this great, it leaves you hungry for more. Adding a wing cap was a great idea, because with the shell and wing cap as transportation options, you can choose your own pace for the course. At the same time, it doesn't feel like you're cheesing the course, because of the risk of falling into lava. Lethal Lava Land is memorable and fits into Super Mario 64 perfectly, and is loved by many, and has probably caused its fair share of crash outs. It's lethal, there's lava, and there's land. What more could you ask for? I've got to be honest, I'm surprised with the Super Mario 64 community, and the reason I say that is, while looking into some things for this video, I found that Shifting Sandland is not necessarily a desired course, but I think Shifting Sandland is so great. It's like, you know, when you were in school and your parents would say something like, oh, you're going to look back at these days as one of the best days of your life, and you don't believe it in the moment, you just want to grow up, and then you grow up and you want to be a kid again, and you miss school, and they were right. That's Shifting Sandland, but like in Mario form. I'm telling you, as a kid, I don't think I particularly liked this course because of it being so difficult, all the traps that seem to be set everywhere. I mean, you've got the quicksand that slowly eats at you, and then you got the ones that you step into and you're just instantly done. Now imagine being a kid, yeah, I mean that'd be difficult and frustrating, you'd probably give up. But now, like, with some experience, this is one of the best levels to go back to. So the first thing that comes to mind with Shifting Sandland is definitely the pyramid. I think that's the obvious answer, right? I mean, this thing is really cool. And there's a lot of reasons. First and foremost, I think pyramids in general are pretty cool. So naturally, I think you see this thing and you're just pulled to it. But then come to find out this isn't just a design or there to look pretty, it's part of the entire course. It really is the course. You walk in and you really got to climb this thing, and it's very puzzle-like. You've got different approaches to different sections of this pyramid. You could tell the developers put a lot of thought and time and care into creating this, because you got a variety of enemies. You could take it very slow or be a bit risky and perform some really cool jumps. You know, risk and reward. Of course, the risk is you fall all the way down, you gotta start over, but when you pull it off, you feel genuinely rewarded, and I love that. But not only is this thing super intuitive, with being rewarded for getting to the top, and then again rewarded for finding the 5 secret coins. Listen, I can make an entire video on Super Mario 64 boss battles. In fact, that sounds like a great idea. I think I'll do that. But this boss battle feels different from the rest. I don't think you expect it. And even though it's not really difficult, it still has that big fight feel, and one of the best stars in the entire game, truly. I mean, like the eyeball on the hand, it's like creepy but goofy at the same time. I don't know. I always look forward to this one for sure. But you know what, that's not even it, because we gotta talk about Klepto, the bird that flies around stealing Mario's hat. I mean, the first time you interact with this thing, you just gotta simply jump and catch a star, pretty easy. When you go back in for later stars, this thing steals your hat. It's one of the few instances in the game where that happens. And while I was collecting clips for this video, I had this random thought, and that was what happens if you go into Tall Mountain without your hat and grab the monkey, because normally if you got your hat, the monkey will take your hat, right? And you guys wouldn't believe what happened. Nothing. Yeah, I was a little bummed too, but you can walk around with it, and there's a cool swimming animation when you're carrying the monkey. I didn't even know this was a thing until I made the video, but yeah, pretty cool, right? Even though Shifting Sandland isn't this ginormous course, it still somehow feels really big, because when you first enter, you're sort of guided forward into what at first feels like a relatively safe course until you start interacting with the quicksand. The lighter stuff you can make it through, and the darker stuff swallows you up instantly. I think that is part of what I didn't like about this course as a kid, because, you know, when you're young, you just want to jump around, you want to be quick. Patience is something that really comes with time, and you got to be kind of patient with this course. But even then, it's great to see that they really have things sort of sectioned off to have different experiences no matter where you are in this course. It doesn't seem like any two areas are really the same. And the 100 coin star is great. I love the fact that you really got to explore everything. Coins are kind of hard to come by in this course. I mean, at first you look around, they seem like they're all over, but you gotta collect everything outside of the pyramid and then go into the pyramid for the rest. This one just feels a little different. It's like you really gotta see everything. And Mario 64 promoted exploration so well. In order to really beat this game, you had to see everything that this game had to offer and learn to appreciate everything and look at the time and ideas that these developers put into making this game what it was. Definitely one of the greatest of all time. The 8 red coin star is a bit difficult because you've got to fly for 4 of the coins next to the pillars, and they can be pretty easy to miss. I like a good challenge. You know, I tried thinking of negative things to say so I could really outweigh pros and cons of this course for the sake of the video, but I don't know if I could even consider the quicksand a flaw, because obviously that's part of what makes Shifting Sandland what it is. I mean, that's the whole point, right? I don't know that I've ever heard anyone say Shifting Sandland is their favorite course, but if somebody told me, like, I wouldn't question it at all, because like I can understand why. This is a really well made course and a lot of fun. Snowman's Land. I gotta say, this definitely has the coolest entry to a painting I've seen in the game. You walk in, you see this giant mirror, you got paintings reflecting, except for you notice that the Cool Mountain painting doesn't appear to have anything on the wall, you just see a reflection of it. And if you jump in, sure enough, another hidden painting. So it shares that with Shifting Sandland. I think the concept's really cool. The only thing is I feel like they could have changed this reflection to give Snowman's Land its own painting rather than just using the Cool Mountain painting, but I mean, it is what it is. I get what they were going with here. The detail is insane, and I really like that you can see Lakitu following you. But yeah, Snowman's Land. I feel like this is the level that could. By that, I mean, this is one of the later courses in the game. By the time you're here, you're almost done. I feel like it may be lacking a bit, and we'll talk about that. First and foremost, this course can absolutely be rushed. You can get in and out of here and collect all the stars in, I don't know, minutes. I didn't actually time it, but I'd be willing to put my money on it. It's got to be one of the faster courses to complete in the game. But it's got some pretty iconic stars, so let's talk about that. So when you first enter this course, you notice a big snowman's head. So something's got to be up there, right? And when you make your way up to the head, you see the penguin's back, and I love that addition. But you got to be careful of the snowman because it will blow you off and blow your hat completely off. But it's a relatively simple star. Once you make it to the top, you just grab it and you're done. And then chill with the bully. I don't know, would you call this a boss fight? It's pretty simple. You got to be careful of the icy water here because, you know, if you touch it, you will get hurt. But couple of kicks to the face and this thing is done. You got another star, and then you got into the deep freeze. This is where I feel like there was some opportunity here. You've got this little maze. Now imagine for a moment you had a full-size ice maze similar to the igloo. We'll talk about that in a second, but I mean, more contraptions, more hidden compartments, easier to get lost. I mean, this one takes all about 3 seconds to collect. I don't know, maybe it's just me. And then you got Whirl from a Freezing Pond. I mean, this one's pretty cool. You jump on this dude's head and you swing around like a helicopter until you can make it over here to some blocks and collect another star. I think that's really creative. But what I think is absolutely awesome is the fact that you have to come over here to grab this hidden shell to collect the red coins. I think the red coin star is one of the best stars in the entire game. And part of the reason is, even though this level is small, they still found a way to make exploration a thing, and that's my favorite part about this entire game, is the encouraged exploration. So you got this little section that's specifically for the red coins. You can't get there without the shell. And then you got a couple of simply placed coins, but I like the fact that you also have to stay on this shell to go underneath the ice bully and grab a couple extra coins. You know, you got to really be careful with that shell and not lose it, because otherwise you can't get the star. I've always really enjoyed this one, and that's why it's one of my favorites. But now into the igloo. Super creative. This is a little bit more of what I was talking about by an ice maze. Now, I wouldn't call this a maze per se. I'd call it a room with blocks of ice. Or I guess an igloo with blocks of ice. But can you imagine if there was like a true maze? You can come over here, grab some coins to get that 100 coin star, and then over here to grab the actual star for inside the igloo. But yeah, that's really it. There isn't a whole lot to say here because, again, the course is small. Nothing is particularly difficult. I love the concept because Cool Mountain was so great. To have an extra taste of snow and ice and wind and all that is pretty nice, but it just doesn't compare. Why does Wet Dry World feel like a forgotten dream? When people talk about creepy Nintendo levels, this one always comes up, and honestly, I completely understand why. Wet Dry World just felt wrong. Now don't get me wrong, Super Mario 64 in general already had a weird atmosphere sometimes, but Wet Dry World is different. It doesn't feel scary in an obvious way. It feels empty, and honestly, I think that's what makes it creepy. You jump into the level and immediately something feels off. The music is weirdly calm, the town looks abandoned, the buildings just don't make sense. And the water mechanic somehow makes everything even stranger. For anyone who somehow doesn't know, Wet Dry World changes depending on the water level. Enter high, the city floods. Enter low, everything becomes dry and exposed. And then there's the atmosphere. This level just feels lonely. It's basically that weird unsettling feeling you get from empty places that should have people in them, like an empty mall, schools at night, abandoned pools. Places that feel familiar but wrong, and Wet Dry World absolutely has that energy. The empty town area especially. You climb into this hidden section of a level and suddenly there's just a city. No explanation, no NPCs, no story, just silent buildings sitting in the middle of nowhere. And I honestly think Nintendo 64 graphics made it even creepier, because old games left things to your imagination. The textures were blurry, the environments were simple, everything felt dreamlike. Modern games explain this too much. Because of that, your brain filled in the gaps, and that's why so many old games feel weirdly emotional today, because they felt less realistic and more like memories. And honestly, I think that's why people still talk about Wet Dry World. Not because it's the best level mechanically, or because it has the best or hardest stars, but because it made people feel something. And I know some people hate this level. I've heard every complaint. It's annoying, it's confusing, the camera sucks, and okay, fair. But I think people focus too much on gameplay efficiency and not enough on atmosphere. Because Wet Dry World sticks with you. You remember the weird town, the changing water, the strange music, and you remember how it felt. And honestly, that matters more than perfect platforming. And maybe Wet Dry World isn't creepy because of internet conspiracies. Maybe it just captures a feeling most games don't anymore. The feeling of being somewhere unknown, somewhere lonely, somewhere that doesn't fully make sense. And honestly, that's part of what makes Super Mario 64 magical. It wasn't afraid to be weird. It wasn't afraid to leave mysteries unexplained. And Wet Dry World might be the perfect example of that. Or maybe I'm overthinking it. Tall Mountain is a lesson in risk and reward. It's like Nintendo built a level where every decision has consequences. As a kid, Tall Mountain always felt difficult to me. Not because the stars were hard, but because this is a level of confidence. Almost every shortcut or jump comes with the possibility of falling halfway down the mountain, or all the way off the map. But Tall Mountain is different. I wouldn't call it hard, or at least not in the traditional sense. The enemies aren't particularly dangerous, and most of the jumps aren't ridiculously precise. And the stars themselves are pretty straightforward once you know where you're going. And somehow this level feels like it has consequences. Because Tall Mountain is built around one simple idea. The higher you climb, the more you have to lose. The moment you enter the course, you know exactly what the goal is. Unlike other levels where you're wandering through tunnels trying to figure out where to go, Tall Mountain is surprisingly easy to understand. You see the mountain, so you climb it. Simple. But that simplicity also creates a tension. Mario 64 levels spread their challenges across a large area, while Tall Mountain stacks everything vertically. Every path and platform and shortcut is pushing you to a higher and higher point, and the higher you go, the more dangerous even simple mistakes become. And that's what makes this level so memorable. The challenge isn't platforming itself, it's the fear of falling. Think about how many times you've been near the top of the mountain and suddenly found yourself sliding, bouncing, or accidentally stepping off the ledge. That creates a completely different feeling from most of the game. The mountain itself is what becomes the obstacle. I think it's kind of genius, because without the risk, racing to the top wouldn't feel nearly as rewarding. As you make your way upward, the level constantly changes around you. One minute you're following narrow pathways, the next you're jumping across giant mushrooms hanging off the side of a cliff. And even today, the mushroom section is one of the most memorable parts of the entire course. It's weird and colorful, a little intimidating the first time you see it. I mean, Nintendo could have given us another rocky pathway, but instead they put giant mushrooms on the side of a mountain, and somehow it made it feel completely normal. Then of course there's the monkey, because apparently climbing a giant mountain wasn't enough. Nintendo also decided to add a monkey running around stealing hats. It's one of those small details that make Tall Mountain feel less like a platforming challenge and more like an actual place. Because, you know, the mountain has wildlife and secrets, and it feels alive. And speaking of secrets, we have to talk about the slide. In my opinion, this is the best slide in Mario 64. I know Peach's secret slide has most of the attention because it's one of the first slides you can encounter, but the Tall Mountain slide is on another level. It's longer and faster, it's more dangerous, and because it's tucked away all the way on the side of the mountain, feels like a genuine discovery. You don't enter this map expecting to find the slide, because the theme doesn't seem to match, but nonetheless, it's absolutely my favorite part about this entire course. Tall Mountain also has one of the most frustrating stars in my opinion. I'm talking about Mystery of the Monkey Cage. This one always seems to give me problems, because if you overjump or miss too much, you can easily fall off the entire map, or fall a considerable distance and make your way all the way back up and try again. It's difficult. The time it takes to get from the bottom to the top is the only downfall. But because it's a challenge, and a fun challenge, I can't necessarily say that makes the level bad, because nothing about this level really feels bad. Super Mario 64 is completely built around atmosphere. When you go to jump into this painting, it's ironically the smallest painting in the game, almost as if it's hiding from you or something. But when you do, you embark on this whole new journey that Mario 64 has in store for you. And overall, I'd say it's a pretty great course. Does size matter? In Tiny Huge Island, yeah, it totally does. What a great course. In a game that's filled with various terrains and landscapes, objectives, and various gimmicks, I think Tiny Huge Island was a great addition for this game. Visually, it may not be the most beautiful, but mechanically and overall gameplay, this is awesome, and I absolutely love everything about this course. Like, I don't even know where to begin. There's so much I could say. You walk into this room, you see this normal painting straight ahead that you cannot enter. You look left, you look right, you see there's two other paintings. One looks smaller than the other. It's really cool that if you walk down the hallway towards a larger painting, the room grows, or Mario shrinks. I haven't quite been able to figure out what's happening here. Nonetheless, it certainly added excitement. So you jump in, you start exploring. You notice that as small Mario, everything is huge, the enemies are gigantic, and vice versa. You enter big, everything is all small and tiny. But the stars, man, the stars are really what makes this course what it is. Because a lot of them you have to bounce back and forth between tiny and huge. In the giant world, ordinary objects feel threatening. But in the tiny world, the level feels manageable and easier to understand. So switching between sizes creates puzzle solving like feelings without feeling like an overall puzzle game. And there's just so much that's memorable about this. So let's talk about these stars. First we got Pluck the Piranha Flower. It's a great introduction to the stars, as you take on these 5 oversized piranha plants, and this can honestly be a little bit difficult because not only do they damage you, but I find that it's easy to accidentally jump off the ledge. Nonetheless, you're rewarded with a star when you take them down. Then you got Tip Top of the Huge Island. Relatively simple star. Just find your way to the very top of the island, you find this block, and you're rewarded with another star. And then rematch with Koopa the Quick, one of my favorite stars in the entire game. Because though this race is shorter than the last time, it's more challenging, and it's a fun idea that they brought this back. And then 5 itty bitty secrets. What makes this one cool is you have to be Giant Mario, and if you don't know that, it can be a bit challenging to know exactly where you're going to find these, as they're not super obvious. They're in places like the cannon, or the hole to the cave for the red coin star. You know, you almost wouldn't think about that if you didn't know where to look. And speaking of which, normally when it comes to an 8 red coin star, I prefer when a course encourages exploration. In this case, the coins are all confined to this little cave area. But nonetheless, I don't knock it because it's challenging. You gotta jump from platform to platform, and it makes sense for this course because if they were spread out throughout the world, I'm not sure how that would work with the tiny and huge mechanic. And then of course, the boss battle. Make Wiggler squirm. Like most of the boss battles, this is underwhelmingly easy, but it's iconic and very memorable and a bit humorous. And don't forget the 100 coin star, which is really easy on this course as coins are everywhere, especially if you know where to look. Taking out these huge Goombas will give you blue coins, which are worth 5 coins a pop, so taking those out plus finding extra coins here and there, you're good to go. Though this game is built around gimmicks, I've really come to learn to appreciate the gimmicks of Super Mario 64. Because if you think about it, the goal was really to make a fun Mario game in a 3D platform, something that hadn't been done up to this point. So honestly, they could have just made simple courses where you just got in, grabbed stars, moved on, beat Bowser at the end. But no, in the game they really spent a lot of time thinking of creative elements for each course that are bigger than just the course itself. So because of that, Tiny Huge Island feels like more than just another course to me. It's another surprise, and I'm appreciative that the developers really put a lot of time into coming up with ideas like this. With this being a later course in the game, and the fact that they hadn't run out of ideas is just something that I've taken notice to. It's definitely one of my favorite courses in the game, and I'm pretty confident in assuming that a lot of other people love this course too, because for what it is and for what they were trying to do, they executed it very well. And the little added details too, like for example, this giant fish that swallows you whole if you swim too close to it. The time on the clock, specifically the minute hand, changes the entire course depending on what it is when you enter. For instance, you enter at 12 o'clock, everything stops. So you don't got things moving, and it's great for things like the 8 red coin star, but there are certain stars that require movement, so it's not like you could just play this whole course with the clock stopped. 3 o'clock, everything starts moving. There's slow movement, it's great for getting around the course and you can get everywhere you need to go. but it does require patience as it takes a while to get wherever it is that you do need to go. 6 o'clock, everything has random movement. It's really cool the developers added this as an option, but it's like playing this level on party mode. There's no real reason to actually play like this, unless you wanted the extra challenge or thought it was goofy. And at 9 o'clock, everything starts moving fast. Definitely more of a challenge, almost like the course is on hard mode, but certain stars are a lot quicker this way. To me, that's one of the most creative mechanics in a Mario game, like ever. The level doesn't just have moving platforms, it has stakes. It has modes and personalities. And what's cool about this mechanic is the game never really explains it, you discover it. As a kid, you may answer the clock and notice these changes and just think it's something happened randomly. But once you realize you're in control of that, it changes the narrative of the whole level. It's such a simple thing that the developers could have never added and the level would have still been acceptable, but because they did, it makes it so much better. So, Tick-Tock Clock is very vertical. There's no safety nets or wide platforms or friendly terrain, just gears and rotating blocks and spinning things. And there's a constant threat of falling all the way back to the start or just completely out of the map. But it's not unfair, it's uncompromising. Every obstacle is placed with intention. You're forced to jump. You don't really get to play this course on your time, you really got to play the course on the course's time. So it's a level of skill, and really a lot of patience. It's like the game is asking you, do you actually understand Mario's movement, or have you just been winging it? This is where long jumps and wall kicks and momentum control and even the camera awareness are all necessary to understand to complete this level. As a kid, I felt like this level was so hard and hard to come back to. Not because I felt like the level was bad, just it was hard. When you're young, you don't have discipline yet, so you tend to rush and panic and jump early, or too late. But when you return to the level as a more experienced player, the level transforms, not because it's easier, but because you got better and a little smarter. So you're rewarded with things like waiting for the right cycle, reading platform movement, controlling the momentum, staying calm after a mistake, knowing when to stop and when to commit. It's a level that teaches you to slow down in a game that overall encourages speed. So Tick-Tock Clock is difficult, but it's an honest difficult, because nothing is random except the mode you chose, and nothing is cheap and nothing is hidden. If you fall, it's because you mistimed something, or you get hit, or it's because you didn't respect the rhythm. If you fail a jump, it's because you didn't commit to it correctly. And that's part of why this level ages so well, because it's not a gimmick. It's pure platforming in a very unforgiving form. And that's why so many players once hated it, but eventually came back to say, wait, this is actually great. Because it is great. And you've got a balance in the stars. And while making this video, I was thinking about the stars one at a time and realized that none of them are particularly difficult. The stars are all there in plain sight. It's just a matter of you getting there. And yeah, it takes a long time to get from the bottom to the top, but it feels so good when you do. And there's like mini checkpoints, so to speak, as the stars are spaced out pretty evenly throughout the level. It's Mario's version of that game that's really popular. Can't even remember what it's called. Hold on. Only Up. I feel old that I had to look that up. So Tick-Tock Clock stands out because it does something very few Mario levels ever attempt. It gives you control of the level's behavior. It tests every movement and skill you've learned. It forces you to master timing, not just platforming. It respects the player enough to be difficult. It becomes more rewarding the better you get. It's a level that grows with you, depending on how you approach it. It proves Mario 64's design wasn't just groundbreaking, but it was thoughtful, intentional, and way ahead of its time. So Tick-Tock Clock isn't just a course, it's philosophy. If you master the rhythm, the level becomes yours. If you took random objects and platforms from Super Mario 64 and scattered them randomly in the sky and added a magic carpet, what would that look like? What an interesting course design. We have traveled through various types of terrain, we've seen various elements, we've conquered bosses, we've raced penguins, defeated ghosts, and we end up here, the final course in the game, Rainbow Ride. I got a comment on one of my videos that said Rainbow Ride was like a playground for the developers, and I think that was a great way of explaining this course. I try to put myself inside of the minds of the developers sometimes when I'm analyzing these courses, and usually there's a gimmick or something that makes that really easy to do. But this one, it's weird, it's different. I don't know how I feel about Rainbow Ride, and yeah, it can be difficult, but at the same time, not really. What do you expect from the final course of a Mario game? Does it need to be super hard or super fun? Should it be the level they put the most effort into? Or is it just another level that happens to be the last one in the game? it's hard to pick up on the overall theme. I think it's easy to say the carpet is the star of the show here, but there's a lot of other things too going on, like the ship, which in my opinion is my favorite part of this course. I think it looks really cool, but other than that, not very appealing to look at. Nonetheless, we gotta talk about it. Alright, well, let's talk about the stars here. So first up, we got Cruiser crossing the rainbow. We take this carpet patiently all the way to the very top of this course. Well, it feels like the course does everything it can to prevent us from getting there, with various barriers in the way, so lots of jumping. And if you're not quick enough, it's easy to fall off, or if you don't jump back onto the carpet fast enough, it will go away. So there is a challenge here. But once you make it to the top, you grab the star. Not too bad. Then, the big house in the sky. So same thing, we're going to take the carpet, except this time we're going to go in a different direction. A little bit of a longer carpet ride into this big house, and eventually we make it to the top of that and grab another star. Next, the 8 red coin star. I think the goal here was for you to show off that you've learned how to navigate Mario, as you're going to need to do various long jumps and wall kicks to collect the coins for the star. But it's not particularly difficult, as it's very forgiving, so even if you fall, you just try again, eventually you'll get this one. I'm a little disappointed. The 8 red coin stars should really encourage exploration. In this case, it just wants you to do wall kicks, which would be fine if there was more of a challenge and a risk of falling off the course or something like that. In this case, you'll take a little bit of damage, but you'll just heal again when you collect another coin. Then we got swinging in the breeze. So from the beginning of this course, you have the option to either take the carpet, or if you look behind you, you'll see there's a whole nother section over here and you can just long jump over to it. So when we do, we just navigate this little secondary part of Rainbow Ride, and eventually we'll find a star. And then tricky triangles, same sort of thing, will go the same way, except on the other side of this little area, there's these triangles that we have to hurry up and navigate to the top to grab another star. Then, somewhere over the rainbow, at least this one is a little bit challenging. Essentially, you go to the same ship on the very top of the course, and you have to jump into the cannon and fly over to this little island in the sky to break a block and collect another star. And then, everybody's favorite star in the entire game, the 100 coin star. I don't know, I feel like I hear a lot of negative things about this star in particular. It's difficult, and whenever a star is difficult in like a actual difficult kind of way, and not just like annoying or something that's out of your control, I tend to like that. So even though this isn't a favorite star by others, this is my favorite star in this course. The blue coins can be a bit tricky to collect, but once you get the wall kicks down, it shouldn't be too much of a problem. So yeah, that's it. Once you collect the final star, assuming you played all the courses in order, you've collected your last stars needed to officially beat the game. From here, you can unlock the cannon outside of the castle to shoot onto the roof and find Yoshi, and be rewarded with 100 lives. Cool idea. So, overall, I'm somewhere right in the middle. I could see the argument from those of you guys who say you really don't like it, it's too hard, too challenging, not enough going on. But on the other hand, for those who really love the course, it was a genius design and the right amount of difficult. Sure, I hear you. You know, I've always loved this game. In every one of my analysis, I found a different way to bring that up. That this game was my childhood, that I grew up playing this, that it means a lot to me. But over the course of making these videos, I started to think about the game in an entirely different way. Because as I'm collecting these clips for the videos, I have to think about how I'm feeling. I have to make assumptions to what the developers are probably thinking while making it. I have to think back to my past and my childhood and compare that with playing the game then versus playing the game now. So when people talk about Super Mario 64, they usually talk about the worlds, like how Bob-omb Battlefield introduced players to 3D platforming, and how Cool Mountain has the penguin, Tick-Tock Clock pushes Mario's movements to its limits, and Big Boo's Haunt's the best course in the game. Anyway, my point is, the standard courses are what gets all the attention. But honestly, I think the Bowser courses are the most important in the game. I mean, think about it. With all the various different kind of courses, it has a lot of different feels and environments, etc. You're collecting stars at your own pace and messing around with enemies and really playing the game your own way. But the Bowser courses are different. They're very linear. Got lots of floating platforms and no real objectives other than getting to the end. Of course, each Bowser course does have the 8 red coin star included, but other than that, just make it to the end. I truly love the designs of these. And after collecting only 8 stars, we can enter our first. Bowser in the Dark World. Now this is a relatively easy challenge. Anybody should have no problem making it to the top. And that makes sense being the first Bowser course. With that said, there are a lot of opportunities for you to fall or miss jumps or whatever. In general, I think one thing these courses lack is the lack of objectives here. I mean, sure, yeah, getting the red coin star is a nice touch. You gotta really explore the entire thing, because something almost all of these courses have in common, there are plenty of opportunities to skip sections. But the 8 red coin star really encourages you to look at everything. Had they added stars other than that to these courses, I think it would have just been a little bit better. Nonetheless, the game is made how it is, and this is what we've got. And if that's the only complaint I have, that's not bad. But then we make it to the end and we start the battle with Bowser. Pretty simple. All we gotta do is grab Bowser by its tail and launch this guy right into the bomb. Boom, blows up and you win. By the way, I wanted to show you guys this trick. Did you know if you throw Bowser off of the edge, and it can be a bit precise, but catch him before he hits the ground and then fling him into a bomb, he'll fly extremely far for no reason. But if you do this, you don't win. You still have to grab him again and throw him into a bomb like you normally would. I just thought I'd include it because I thought that was pretty cool. Once you've collected 30 stars, you can now go to the next Bowser course. Bowser in the Fire Sea. Technically 31 stars because you have to go into Dire Docks and grab the star from Bowser's submarine, but that's really easy to do. Once you're in here, you're surrounded by lava, and I gotta say this one definitely has the best atmosphere. The lava is a great touch. Even though you're not falling into some void, falling into lava feels just as dangerous. It's a bit longer than the first. I'd say the 8 red coin star is better than the first as well. You've got some tricky jumps, and the bullies and enemy placement I think is really great too. You gotta carefully jump from poles, but before you know it, you made it to the end and you're ready for Bowser fight number 2. And it looks like Bowser has some upgraded techniques. Now he can tilt the world vertical by jumping, but once we grab him by the tail and throw him at the bomb, it's another easy victory. And then once you have collected 70 stars, you can officially opt to beat the game, depending on what your definition of beating the game is. In my opinion, beating this game is collecting all 120 stars, but for some, it's when the credit rolls. So you get your 70 stars and you go fight Bowser for the 3rd time, and we enter Bowser in the Sky. Now this one's more similar to the first Bowser course, Bowser in the Dark World, in the sense that you're surrounded by a void, but it's a much longer course. Now with this being the final Bowser course, I do want to say, even though it is longer than the other Bowser courses, it's barely longer and it's really not hard. It's kind of a letdown, honestly. I feel like there could have been so much more to do and explore here. It shares a similar feeling to Rainbow Ride in the sense that it's just objects stacked on top of each other. You know, it's a race to the top like all Bowser courses kind of are, but this one's more like random. It doesn't have the same feeling as the other ones. You know, you're about to beat the game and you just like, this is it. I don't know. I mean, it is iconic, but I'm trying to look at it objectively and not just let personal feelings decide how good of a course this is. But then again, this game is art. So like any art, it's open to interpretation. And once we make it to the end, we're ready for the final Bowser fight. And this time we do got an actual challenge. Instead of flinging Bowser into a bomb once and you're done, we've got to do it 3 times. All the while this guy is charging at you, he's teleporting and sending these circle shocks or whatever you want to call them at you, and you got to jump over him. And after Bowser connects with 2 bombs, he gets rid of most of the world and now you're confined to this star. I think that's super cool because we've been doing nothing but collecting stars this whole time, and now it comes down to you, Bowser, battling on a star. And once you get that final blow, you're rewarded with 1 more star that you don't actually collect. But now you get this cool cutscene as Peach is free, gives Mario a little bit of a smooch, and goes to bake him his cake. To think that Mario went through all of this just for a piece of cake, it's crazy. How far would you go for someone you love? Anyway, yeah, there's not a whole lot to say about these courses because, as mentioned, they're relatively short, and other than making it to the end and defeating Bowser, the game is really centered around collecting the stars. Even though the story is that you're there to save Peach, it doesn't feel like the focus. But it is just a video game. Well, it's more than that. It's one of the best games that were ever made, with maybe a little bit of flaw in the story art, and somehow still one of the greatest of all times. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch the video. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed the content, please consider subscribing for more videos like this. If you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe on your way out, and you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much for playing my game.